A dangerous love. How one wrong decision ruined the life of a famous family. In the high-pressure world of politics, fame, and public life, the line between a personal desire and professional responsibility often blurs. For Simon Berkeley, a renowned British politician, the struggle between his career and family took a toll on his emotional well-being. This story is about how one wrong decision, a brief moment of weakness, spiraled into the family crisis, affecting not just him but everyone around him, especially his children. This is a tale of a power, betrayal, and the unintended consequence of neglecting one's emotional needs. Part 1. The Perfect Love That Wasn't. Simon Berkeley was at the top of his game, serving at the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom. He was a man of eminent influence and power. His wife, Helen, a famous fashion designer, was equally successful, and together they were considered the epitome of the perfect family. They had two children, Lucy, a 14 years old girl, and Tom, a 10 years old boy. To the outside world, Simon and Helen's life was a fairy tale. The attendant glamorous events posed for magazine and were seen as the golden couples by the media. However, behind the scenes, Simon's commitment to his political career took a precedence, and Helen, despite her success, began to feel increasingly lonely and neglect. But it wasn't just the lack of time that caused tension. It was Simon's inability to connect emotionally with his wife and children. Part 2. The Emotional Void and the Affair. The crack in Simon and Helen's marriage started to show. Simon, overwhelmed by the demand of his job, had always felt like he was living up to the expectation of the public rather than his own desire. He had grown up in a home where emotional connection was minimal. His parents, both successful in their respective fields, were emotionally unavailable. Simon's need for a validation and his deep-seated fear of being unloved made him overly focused on his public image and professional achievement. These early emotional wounds set the stage for his emotional detachment in his marriage. It was during a political campaign that Simon met Eliza, a young and ambitious journalist. At first, their interactions were purely professional, but Eliza, charm and warmth, began to fill the emotional void Simon had been carrying for years. They spent long hours together working on projects, and before long, their professional relationship turned into an emotional one. Eliza became the person who listened to him, admired him, and made him feel truly seen, something Simon hadn't experienced in years. Despite his commitment to his family, Simon felt drawn to Eliza in a way that he hadn't felt in a long time. The spark of attractions grew into something more. Their affair, although brief, had a profound effect on Simon. It wasn't just about the physical attraction, it was about the emotional intimacy he had been craving. However, this emotional escape came at the cost of his marriage. Part 3. The Unraveling of a Family. As Simon's relationship with Eliza grew deeper, his marriage to Helen became more strained. Helen, who had always been supportive of the Simon career, began to notice the emotional distance between them. She knew something was wrong but couldn't pinpoint the source. She tried to reconnect it, but Simon, consumed by guilt and shame, withdrew further. The affair, however, didn't remain a secret for long. It was exposed by the media in a shocking scandal, and Simon was forced to address the public outrage. His political career which had taken years to build, was now on the verge of a collapse. The pressure to resign became overwhelming, but the damage went beyond his career. Helen, devastated by the betrayal, decided to leave him. Their children, Lucy and Tom, were deeply affected. Lucy, struggling with adolescence, didn't know how to cope with the emotional turmoil. She felt torn between her parents, unsure of who to trust. Tom, still young children, exhibited signs of the anxiety and fear, constantly asking his mother if they would be okay. Part 4. Psychological Traps of Childhood. Simon's affair wasn't just a momentary lapse in a judgment. It was culminations of unresolved emotional wounds from his childhood. Growing up in a household where affection and emotional connection were scarce, Simon never learned how to nurture healthy emotional bonds. His parents, both focused on their career, never showed him what it means to be emotionally present in relationship. This lack of emotional education led Simon to repeat the same pattern in his adult life. In his marriage to Helen, Simon never fully opened up about his emotional needs. Instead, he sought a validation from the outside world, believing that success in his career would fill the emotional void he had carried since childhood. When Eliza came into his life, she represented everything he had been missing: attention, admiration, and affection. But the consequence of his actions didn't just affect him. They reverberated through his family, particularly his children, who were now facing their own emotional careers. Part 5. The impact on Lucy and Tom. Lucy, caught in the middle of her parents' trauma, began to struggle with her own identity. She started questioning her self-worth, as she had always seen her parents as a model of love and success. The betrayal she felt from her father shattered the image she had of her family. Her relationship with her peers also became strained as she withdrew emotionally, fearing judgment and criticism. Tom, on the other hand, felt confused and scared. As a young child, he couldn't fully understand why his parents were no longer together. He missed the stability and warmth of their home and became increasingly anxious about the future. Both children were experiencing the fallout of Simon's choices, and their emotional development was deeply affected. Part 6. Aftermath and lessons learned. In the end, Simon took responsibility for his action, stepping down from his political roles and attempting to rebuild his relationship with Helen. However, the damage to his career and family was irreversible. Helen too faced the painful task of rebuilding her life. She realized that despite her own success, she had neglected her emotional needs in the marriage, but she was determined to move forward for the sake of her children. As a family, they began the long and painful process of healing, but the scare from the affair would remain. Simon's story serves as a powerful reminder that emotional neglect can have devastating consequences. The emotional trips we carry from childhood can shape our relationship and decision in adulthood, often leading us to repeat the same pattern of behavior. To come to conclusion, the story of Simon and Helen highlights the importance of the emotional connection, communication, and understanding in relationship. It shows how one lapse in a judgment can destroy not only a person's career, but their family as well. Love and family are built on trust and mutual respect, and when those are broken, the consequences are far-reaching. These stories serve as a warning to us all. Our emotional needs must be addressed and nurtured, or they will manifest in a way that can hurt those we love the most.